Musical intro.
I never get tired of that splash.
Welcome to the Honest War Game. I'm your host, Robin. This is Ian from JustPlay. Hello, Ian. How are you?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Welcome, everyone, to what can only be described as something I never expected to say. It is a squig army on 2 wins flat, potentially going into a 3rd win, potentially winning the event. How do you feel about that?
I think it's fantastic. It's also one of our locals, so I'm super happy for him.
Yeah, Tom's a lovely man. I actually got to play him at an event several months ago now, but a great chap to play Warhammer against, and he's been working really hard with this squig army. How do you feel about that?
Good.
Like you've seen him getting better over the course of time.
Yeah, so
how's that
I mean,
been going?
so Tom's Tom's normal event finishes are sort of like 2-3-3-2, and he's always been faithful destruction even when they weren't good. But he's been playing in our club, like me, Richie, James Tinsdale, JP, and like lots of quite strong players. And he's come on a lot, and he doesn't make the dumb mistakes anymore, and he's doing well now. So hopefully he can carry that on.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, we are obviously at the Justice Series GT. This is round 3. We've got Squigs versus Fyreslayers. My personal nemesis. I don't know if you know about this, but Colin Cochran, whenever I play him the 3rd round of an event on a Saturday, I end up in hospital Saturday night. It's happened more than once. Twice, but still more than once. And so now we're seeing him play a Northern Irish champ, playing with his Fyreslayer block. And he said that in this situation, the game is always going to be a lose-lose for him. Because if he wins, he's beat Squigs, which means he loses because no one likes him. And then if he loses, he's lost to Squigs, which is embarrassing.
It's a pretty bad situation to be in, really, isn't it? Yeah. And the mission is not particularly good for him either. So
no, it is not. It's not at all. So let's go look at the tabletop here. So as talked about, and if you guys are watching on your tablet or your phone, you can press the BIP app. And if you aren't doing that and you're watching on a browser, you can just scroll down. And if you scroll down, you'll see the lists. And we've got a squig army, predominantly all squigs, deploying on the left-hand side of the map versus a Fyreslayer block, the Fyreslayer army as it stands this side.
Yeah, all ready to go. I think, so obviously Scorched Earth, lots of objectives all over the place. A situation that Fyreslayers don't like to be in. Like to be in that situation even less on stream. So, when there's a good chance of losing. So, but, obviously Colin's like a top player, one of the best players in my opinion, and he knows his army very well. So, I think he'll manage.
Yeah, it will. So the overgrown terrain on the left-hand side, I think, is going to have an impact. The first 2 things before we get to the lists. The event has swapped out the table again. So just to give you a good showcase of just how much the variety and quality of the terrain at the event. There we go. I finally managed to get those words out.
Thank you very much.
It's just true. Like, it's in the title, mate.
I like
honest.
Honest.
But overgrown terrain, choice to have that there. What do you think about that? Right, it's on both sides, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's even. If we get these turned sideways maps, it's still even. If you're playing against, some of these shooting armies, you got a thing you can hide behind, which is good, whichever way you're playing from. So yeah, I think it looks nice.
So this volcanic up here could be an issue, and this nullification could actually impact the game. We did see. I managed to go over and just catch a bit of Tom's last game. I saw Tom teleport his shaman. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's -1 to hit, and then naturally because of his artifact, and then cast a spell to create a bubble of -1 to hit, so -2 to hit, and then protected it with Scuttle. Won't be able to do the same thing here because nullification will actually just immediately dispel the Scuttle spell, so he's going to have to change that tactic. I don't know if that's something he does every time, but maybe.
Good plan. I did see someone in another game at the start of the game, like 10-1, summon a Balewind while they were standing on top of nullification terrain in round 1, which, no, don't do that. Remember what these terrain pieces do.
Yeah, that really won't help you.
No.
In any way, shape, or form. Right. So before we go, let's go look at the battle plan. So Scorched Earth. I'm a really big fan of Scorched Earth. I think it really changes the shape of the game, and it really does have those. Sometimes you get a bunch of armies. What they do is they deploy on the line, they go forward, and they murder, but they aren't able to protect this. And this is actually I really like its inclusion in a scenario pack, a tournament, because it's quite hard to control that much backboard space from deep striking units. So it makes units like Tree Revenants great. It makes your Kinrian Heartrenders great.
Shadow Warriors
great. So there's a whole bunch of armies and units. Andy Bryan, thank you very much for subscribing, by the way. Appreciate that loads, and appreciate everyone who does subscribe. Oh, we're already at the off. So there are 8 objectives. There are 8 objectives on the field, here, 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 and here. And what you do is you can burn your opponent's objectives, and you can score your own for a point a turn. Pretty certain that's the correct mission.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's 1 point for any objective, and you can only burn the ones in your opponent's half.
Yes. So it's all about going forward, which is fun. Paul Bastian Game says, Colin is my daddy. So Tom has also given Colin the first turn. Tom got the choice because Tom has got 2 battalions, which is quite rare nowadays. He's rocking both the Squiggalanch and the Squig Rider Stampede. Squiggalanch is going to allow him to pile in 6 inches. Squig Rider Stampede allows him to re-roll the charge distance on, the random movement on his Squigs, because they move random amounts. And that is on his 2 units of 5 Squig Herd and his 5 Squig Hoppers, his 2 units of 15 Boingrot Banders, and his Mangler Squig. And he is up against Colin. And Colin is playing Fyreslayers with his Vorstrag army. He has got an Auric Runefire, who's the general with Fiery Endurance, which allows a unit to run and charge. He has activated that rune right now. Vorstrag means you automatically run 6, so that's a 10-inch movement unit of Fyreslayers womping up the board, and that's on that unit of, you can see here, 30 Hearthguard Berserkers. Terrifying. Then he's got 10 Hearthguard Berserkers and 5 Auric Hearthguard, and they are no slouches in combat.
They are a scary army. It's a scary army to play against. It's a different kind of game when you play against Fyreslayers. It's like, how can I not have a fight and just play the table instead, which is maybe easier to do in this mission because you've got the whole table where you can hold objectives and avoid them, but equally the table's turned sideways, so you've got less room to run away from them.
Oh, absolutely. Crazy Horse, thank you so much for donating 1,500 bits to the show. You're an angel. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the show today. That bits donation is wonderful and really appreciated. And if you're watching on Twitch and subscribe, you're great. If you're watching on Facebook and you're giving it some thumbs and likes, if you're watching on YouTube, we're taking all of the comments only on Twitch, so jump over here if you want to come and hang out with us. And just for that, because Crazy Horse is a terrain aficionado, I'm just going to show him around this gorgeous tabletop there. Kenny Lol with it also jumped in from the Combat Phase podcast. Look at that. But that's because Kenny Lol has, before this Fyreslayer book, actually under the very first Fyreslayer book, rocked up over 150 games with Fyreslayers.
Wow, that's a lot of Fyreslayer games.
That's a lot.
That made Richie jealous.
Yeah, but look at that. There we go. There's some cool terrain on this tabletop. I'm a really big fan. There's a little hoose. We've got a little rocky outcrop. I like this skull pit.
Yeah, this is our snowboard. This is actually one of the boards we use in our shop as well quite a lot. It's cool. Bit of a different feel.
Yeah, it's a really cool tabletop. I like the mat as well. The mat's really nice.
Yeah.
Really, really good.
Thank you.
Oh wow, those Fyreslayer units just going to move forward like it does.
Yeah.
What do you think Tom can do here?
So it's interesting. I mean, it's so Boingrot Bounders, like, for me, are quite like they're a good all-round unit. They're not slow. They've got rend. They've got decent attacks. They fly. They do mortals on the charge. They're a good all-round, quite efficient unit, but nothing's as efficient as 30 Hearthguard Berserkers. Right. So I think, given that there's the whole table to play for, I think Colin's plan is probably just to slowly walk around Tom's deployment zone, burning objectives.
One.
Yeah.
Two.
Exactly that. And I think Tom's plan has to be to slow that down by throwing the minimum amount of stuff in its way each turn, not giving it too many free extra pile-ins to give it that extra move it gets off doing that, whilst flying his Boingrots around the back and doing the same to Colin. So I think it's going to be a long game, grindy in terms of victory points, but not necessarily in terms of fighting.
Yeah.
There's no fighting Fyreslayers, so it's just who can be more efficient at grabbing more objectives per turn and slowing the other person down.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think also the movement and utility. Thank you. The movement and utility of this. Oh my God, the squigs. The movement and utility of the squigs. That's what I'm about. I'm trying to say it 3 times here, and I've failed every time. The movement and utility of the squigs is that they might be able to pop up and take these early doors because they're so fast. But it's going to require some very, very, very fast movement. Gnomesbane, thank you for the 500 bits donation. That has brought us to 2,000 just for the game. I think, is it because of the squig army? Is this all the love for Tom? Whatever it's for, I just want to say a big thank you for you guys. You guys are great. I'm rooting for the squigs. I'm going to say straight up now, I'm biased. Colin Cochran, one of my favourite people on Earth, still rooting for squigs.
Yeah, you've got to, haven't you? They're definitely like the guys who are going to be running from a fight, and you've got to, you just want them to live, right? Live, squigs, run faster. But whether they can do that or not, it's a different matter. The 30 Hardcore Berserkers covers a lot of table.
A lot of table, yeah. Interested to see what. So Colin's obviously popped. So he's popped this unit up, so he automatically can burn that objective straight out. No, you can't burn until battle round 2.
Can't burn until 10.
Can't burn until battle round 2, which is a great decision. So what he's basically done there. Oh, but they made a charge of. How far did they roll? What did they roll? So he rolled a 9-inch charge, but with +1 to charge, that's a 10. Pete Pratt says, Colin's my boy, but it's squigs for life. Couldn't agree with you more. That's my exact feeling too. Also, Tom's great. I want that said.
Is, yeah. The problem right now is it's squigs for death. Is what's about to happen. Is those squigs are not going to be on the tail very long. Colin's got to get in here because he could easily lose to this faster army, getting more objectives than him for a while. While his own back ones all get burned eventually after being held, but getting into this stuff early is quite good for him.
Yeah. So there's the squigs. Not long now for this world, but to be fair, it's just a squig herd.
It's just a few squigs.
It's just a few squig. Yeah. It's squig herd. These are the 60-point, 70-point battle line units. These are definitely not the effective thing. So I've seen in Tom's list, or he's got 3 characters that are all -1 to hit, and he's got a spell that everyone within 12 inches is also -1 to hit. That -2 to hit kind of AoE bubble has obviously done him well so far. Do you think that that's going to help against the Fyreslayer block?
I think the problem with the Fyreslayer block is it just does so much damage that even debuffed, its hit rolls will be worse, but its wound rolls are so good, so it all evens out, and the squigs haven't got a lot of wounds on the board, no great saves to speak of, and so I don't think it will help enough. The other thing with the Fyreslayer block is that, most blocks you can wear them down over time and they get worse, but the Fyreslayer one, its models don't really die, so it doesn't really get worn down, so it's just, it can still kill whatever it hits, even if it's debuffed. And -2 to hit is big for a lot of armies, but for these, not so much.
Good point. Crazy Horse asking where our light up objective markers are. We actually are in the process, I can tell you a little secret now, we're in the process of having some objective markers printed up. Not the ones that have our logos all over them, but we've designed some that look like pots of gold, because that's where the objectives are, so looks like a big pot of gold. So they're on the way. I'm hoping that they're going to be available for Bloodshed in the Shire next week, but we'll have to wait and see. We're just trying to improve little elements where we can, because okay, so there is here a character. He's actually blocked on our bigger screen. Nathan, it's the Web Spinner Shaman, am I right in thinking that? And the and he unfortunately is the one who has got not Sneaky Distraction. He has got Itchy Nuisance, Sneaky Distraction. Yeah, which is the minus. It is a missed opportunity for Disco Squig, I agree. Which does make him, so that's huge. So this special character here dying, that's a huge, not misplay from Tom, but
I mean, why is that guy there? He's unscreened right at the front of the battlefield. You can tell maybe that planet you talked about before, teleporting, getting in there, getting that bubble, maybe that was on his mind, and while he's doing it, he's not thinking about whether that's going to get charged. But you've got to account for those things, and he's definitely paid the price for being a bit cocky with that. There.
So what he's definitely done here is. So 10 damage on the spider. Like he rolled quite well on the saves, but unfortunately he's only got 4 wounds. He's only a grot. That is a real big blow. So that is a special character. That's a web spinner shaman, and he had access to a single spell that was really important, in my opinion, for Tom's army, creating a little -1 bubble AOE. And then also, there's a big block of Fyreslayers here.
And some squigs are going to go there as well. Yeah, I don't know what. That's a misplay there. No two ways about it. That shouldn't have been there.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, you're right. It's a misplay. So there's a unit of Boingrot Bounders back here. They could potentially be coming in, but this, I think, realistically, just because of how powerful. I think Colin's made a really smart play. How powerful these guys are. You're going to have to commit the Manglers, maybe the Boingrots to clear them. The issue is on the priority. Then the 30 come in, and you lose most of your.
Everything else.
And all of this has happened because Tom gave Colin the turn. All of this board space and this pressure and this early commitment has been done. Now, to be fair, that 9-inch charge, it had to be an 8 to get in.
But again, given that if you're in, this is where it's important to have a plan from the start before you put any models on the board. If you're planning to give the other person turn 1, you need to set up knowing that. And if he'd just set up 2 inches further back, he wouldn't have got charged there. Yeah. I suspect that Tom's probably decided halfway through deployment or after deployment that he's going to give Colin the first turn, so he's not quite stuck to his own plan there.
Yeah,
and he's paid for it.
He has, absolutely has paid for it. And you should always, I'm pretty certain, how often into a game do you think about deploying and whether or not you're going to go first? I pretty much, if I know, and I have played for a very long time, armies where I know that I'm not getting the choice. What I actually do is I play a kind of sneaky game with my opponent where all I'm doing is trying to second guess what they do, just adding an extra layer just for myself of difficulty.
Yeah, for maximum self difficulty. I try when I if I'm setting up in a castle, which I'm playing a lot of Death, I do. I try to set up in a castle but not make it so obvious I'm definitely planning to take turn 2. I at least make the opponent, I like people to worry about the fact of what might happen to them on turn 1 at least.
Yeah, it's a solid tactic too. There's so many tactics in deployment, which I think could be looked at, which is really fun. So Colin did not score these back objectives. We moved straight into Tom's turn. We're moving into Tom's turn. He's red. Yes, and he's failed to cast Hand of Gork and put it onto these objectives.
Yeah.
Nath, can we just change the overlay to Tom being active? Thanks. And not being able to cast Hand of Gork means those units haven't gone over there and just claim them really early. If you get because you can score with models and it's 6 inches, what he could have done is just Hand of Gork to 1 unit and then just that. Back, he only needs 1 model on either end of that, and then he scores, then he can burn them super early.
And a double turn, you're in 2 VP plus 2 D3 and then you're golden. Collins obviously just wants to be aggressive, which is good because he wants Tom to have to fight him. He's going to force his way into Tom's deployment zone, I guess.
The issue is, though, is this unit is just going to go through. But probably the right decision is not give them anything to charge. They can run and charge, but just don't give them a 12-inch charge.
Yeah. That's why, again, setting those models on his front line back a little bit further back would have just denied Fyreslayers that charge and grabbing them objectives because...
I would normally agree. It's just this situation...
Oh, sorry, they popped up, didn't they?
They popped up. Yeah, you've always just got that 9-inch to deal with, which is just horrible. So I think Tom now, potentially what he's going to want to do, is he going to commit in here? I don't know. I've never seen a Squig player play at this level so far. But obviously he's definitely not doing without those 15 Boingrots. Yeah. And 15 Boingrots is a big unit as well.
It is a big unit. It's a 30 wound unit. It's a lot of mortals on the charge, which most armies would be afraid of. But a lot of mortal saves in the Fyreslayers, so they're less worried about it. But you know, he can certainly hit some of these. What a good thing to do against Fyreslayers is hit the units in the flanks, where they can't get as many return attacks back. You know, and make them at least work for their murdering your army, or take more than one turn to do it.
Yes,
which is good.
I think he's going to have to. So he definitely is not committing. Maybe he's just going to effectively just fold away from that flank and just backline away here, looking to just pile around. So we've just seen a unit roll that looks like a 16-inch movement on his Mangler Squig, Nath. We'll just get that double checked.
Sutton just got a very big number, and he's got.
Is it the Mangler Squig?
Maybe he's going to go in for a hit and run.
Oh, the Boingrots are moving 19.
Yeah. The sharp edge of the double-edged sword of random movement is that sometimes you roll really big numbers. So let's see what now he's got that. He's got a new option open to him, which is to do this. I'm not entirely sure what he's going to do with it. Like I'm not sure if he's going to go into the block there, or is he trying to come into the first 15 from behind? I'm not really sure what this play is.
Right, so this is the Rune Smiter that's tunneled up with the Hearthguard. So he's definitely put in some models that I think what he's going to try and do is just mortal wound him off.
Yeah.
Then that also... but the Boingrots can't run and charge, so they've ran. They haven't just moved. Right, okay, so they're just moving there. No charges.
Right. Okay. So maybe this there is... maybe he's just trying to zone them Fyreslayers out for a turn, stop them grabbing too much.
What, with your really expensive combat block?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a good move. I'm just saying I don't know why. If he's going there with a run, he's either like trying to play for a double turn, or he just really wants. I mean, he hasn't got much else to zone things out with. He hasn't got any other units with much volume on the board.
Yeah.
So it's
to quote Gnomesbane in the chat, bold strategy, Cotton.
I think that appropriately sums up this situation.
I think it's very, very appropriate for the situation.
Yeah.
So those guys are flying, and they do fly. Because he can't just commit with some of them. So is that Mangler in the center ran, or is it just moved? We'll double check that with Nathan. The Mangler in the center has just ran or moved. Run. I mean, everything is running. He hasn't realized it. So halfway through his movement phase, he realized he can't run and charge, because you can run and charge if the moon is up, but because it's too early in the day, it's only like 4 or 5 o'clock. Yeah, you can't. You look visibly upset, Ian.
Tom.
So because the moon, the way the moon works is, and I love doing this now, the moon is in this little corner here, and then it takes up a portion of the board. If it's in the center, it takes up all of the board, and it charts a line across there. It would have been, if the moon had been there next turn. But next turn, now, I agree he's played himself into a bit of a pickle. However, and this is super important, he gets the priority roll. Probably the most important priority roll I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
If he gets that, then this whole flying army can just go places.
Go and do stuff, yeah. Yeah, I was just about to say for Nathan found that out, that maybe he thinks he's going to lose so hard, he just really wants to lean on a double turn or nothing. and that is actually what he's unintentionally doing, I suppose, right now.
But maybe, sometimes I feel, did you ever do movements on the tabletop where you think, I've really channeled some sort of inner generalmanship there. I didn't know I had some latent general powers.
You're really pleased with yourself, but you don't want to tell anyone because you're
like
a douchebag.
It wasn't my plan, but I've smashed that. But could that be... Now, okay, maybe he's high on shrooms is another suggestion.
Yeah.
From Captain Andrew. And then also he needs the priority. And I couldn't agree with that more.
It's a tough one. I mean, I think it was, it's quite a tough game for an army that wants to go in but doesn't have the same grindy power as the Fyreslayers. But I think he's going to wish he was just running around the board avoiding combat. Now, instead of running into combat.
But what I like is what I really like is he put the combat gauges down there, and he's just like, don't worry, I'm definitely going to get the pirate roll. I'm just keeping them there so we know. Like, that's a statement of intent. So it's the end of the turn. This is just hold yourself. Oh, it looks high. It's a 4 for Tom. Tom has rolled a 4. Oh, he's moving the moon first.
Oh, right.
And it has moved. That was really important because it could have not moved.
It's moved to where it needed to be last turn.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yo, hi, WSD Gorlord, Frank, how you doing? It's good. Hello, everyone on the show. It's me and Ian doing the commentary, and we're playing Scorched Earth, and we're seeing Fyreslayers versus a double squig battalion. But are we going to see?
Oh, dear.
Oh, I was so hyped for this game.
Yeah.
It really was.
How long does it take to move the camera to another table, Rob? Out of interest.
We can do it quite quick. That game hasn't even started. So.
No, that's turn 5. That's what Slanesh has on turn 5.
So what's just happened on the tabletop, ladies and gentlemen, is Colin has rolled a 5. Colin has rolled a 5 for priority. Thomas unfortunately rolled a 2. He's then rolled his rune to empower his weapons. He's rolled the empowered version of his rune. So his whole army has got +1 attack. That would be these 30 Hearthguard Berserkers who can move 6 automatically, run and charge, so they can go about 10 inches. They can also pile and attack twice. As are this unit. They can't pile and attack twice, but they can have an extra attack. So...
yeah. It's not looking good for the squigs.
It's Gnome's made. Stop, he's already dead.
Maybe didn't quite come off. Tom's going to be so upset with himself for that mistake. It's going to be unfortunate. But, you know, these things happen in games of Warhammer all the time, in every tournament, every weekend. And good players make silly mistakes as well sometimes, you know.
More... yeah. Doing the coverage has really lowered my opinion of a lot of good players.
Yeah. Like, I think I've seen plenty of good players make mistakes this bad on turn 1, but you know, you recover from them. Sometimes you get lucky, you get out of it. In this case, it happens to be he's going to get punished for it seriously because of the matchup. But I've seen people make real doozies of mistakes, you know, like leave stuff completely unscreened from one direction where stuff could fit in between models. You know, top players who play ETC and all sorts, and it's not unusual at all. It's a tough, complicated game, particularly when it's, you know, a high-pressure game. So,
exactly. And like OJ said in the chat, pressure equals mistakes. And I couldn't agree with that more. That Fyreslayer block is so challenging to wrap your head around how you're going to deal with it. And then also that big charge and losing that character early is going to... So there's this thing being on tilt, yeah, where players feel like they've been pushed quite hard. And also... you know, it's a squig army at the end of the day. It's pretty random in its effectiveness anyway. I'm sure Tom's practiced with it more and more. It looks good. There's probably going to be a lot of dead squigs, but a lot of happy Fyreslayers.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably going to be the case.
Yeah. Now, I would like to say that he could even fail the charge, but he's going to get within 3, and he gets +1 to charge. So there's not even that hope of the double 1. There is a hope that he forgets to charge.
Yeah, I mean, that is a thing. Yeah, he could accidentally tell Tom it's his turn, and
he could
Tom
also
could
do
refuse
that.
to let him take it back. Yeah. Let's think of all these plans. How else can we get out of it?
Mr. T says, on the bright side, I have to go to a party and was bummed that I couldn't see the entire game. Now I won't miss a thing.
Tom would appreciate that, I think.
So we're seeing the runic spell wall come out. You don't see this very often.
No, you don't see it very often.
You don't see it very often. So being used there to block off a unit of squigs, I think. Just being used, I think, to control... It's very odd. I thought the Fyreslayers would actually be going... I thought they would actually be going that way.
Maybe. I mean, there is an argument that says, you know, Colin's original plan of walking down the board, just burning all the objectives as he goes. Maybe the fact that Tom's gotten there doesn't really make a difference to that plan, because he doesn't think it's... You know, these 50,
there's no respect for the squigs.
I mean, these 15 guys with +1 attack will kill them squigs on their own. This 30 block might now just go and take his own 4 objectives.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Tom's given up any kind of pretense of having enough units around here now So that 15 could just claim that quarter, and Colin could be done with it. Protect his backfield against what's left.
Very, very interesting. I would definitely be aiming for the charge there, though.
I would have expected that, but he's probably got a reason he doesn't want to.
Okay. I think the loss of those two Mangler Squigs could be particularly big. Activations are going to be very important as well. One of those activates has got Fight to Live Another Day, when the Mangler, Loom Boss or Mangler Squig. So once it's attacked, it is going to be able to run off, so it could move quite far. It could dash across the board, get over towards this sort of area after it's fought. So it could be quite scary. Whether or not that's ever... Old Boy Phil says, chat want a 1+ ward save for reroll for the Squigs this turn. I think we're all rooting for the Squigs. But they might be up against it.
If that was a thing we could give them, then we would.
We would love to. So it looks like the Fyreslayers are actually going to go south. Well, this block... Oh, there we go. So he's okay. So that's the plan. So the idea is, I think here, this unit is going to charge in. They're going to fight here, which means they're also going to go over there. They're going to claim both objectives at once. Yeah. The big unit of 30 is going to go up there. It's going to attack these. It's going to wipe them out. It's going to pile in again, and potentially wipe out one of the Mangler Squigs. And neutering probably about 600. No, it's more than that, isn't it? Nearly 700 points,
it's a lot of points
in a turn, which is, and again, the issue with the Squig army and the Fyreslayer army, with the Fyreslayers are dead, they're dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not much of a saving grace, but
when the one Fyreslayer is dead, he's dead.
He's dead. But the Squig army also can't attrition particularly well either, so... question, has Colin had to make a single hair save once? That's actually a really...
He did once when he was younger, I think, and he failed it.
Yeah, there we go. I'll show you. He did once when he was younger, but then it just all brushed off in a strong breeze. That's what the face of one of the nicest men in Warhammer looks like.
Yeah,
like he doesn't look... normally there's nothing but a smile plastered on his face. He also looks exactly like Nathan, just Irish.
It's true. It's a fun fact about Colin as well, is his hair actually makes him look older than he is. He's actually 25. That hair save was just very ineffective.
And poor Tom. How's he feeling? Let's go do a quick check.
I think there's that's a Tom face. Yeah. There's a thing though, like Colin's not smiling right now. There is a thing where when you are a nice guy and you're playing Warhammer and the game is just now yours, there's a good chance of being yours, you try not to smile and stuff, like to rubber into your opponents or make them feel any worse. And you see that a lot, don't you, as well? So
yeah, you do.
That's probably what's happening.
I disagree with that as a statement. I'm just like, look, you're losing terribly. Do you want to quit? Like every minute, every combat, want to quit? Yeah. No.
Give up, man. Give up.
Question, can one unit claim more than one objective? Yes.
Yes.
Can one unit claim? Yes, because it's all based on models around and not based on units. That's a 40k rule that kind of confuses people sometimes.
Commonly, old AOS rule as well. A lot of people misplay that. That's probably one of the rules questions I've had the most in judging and stuff is, can I hold two units with objectives with just one unit? Yeah, you can.
Yeah. It's all about models on the objectives. Yeah. So I think so that's what we're going to see from this unit here. They're going to score those two straight off the bat, and I'd almost argue that we're going to see. I suppose he needs to protect against the Boingrots.
Yeah, he still needs to do the bare minimum to make them have a fight to get in there. Because there's always the chance that Colin burns everything for 1, Tom gets lucky, burns everything for 3, and suddenly Colin loses the game. It's the thing with these random objective point missions sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely right. And he still hasn't screened out these backs, and he knows that. So there's still Hand of Gork potentially coming in, and a single shaman, Hand of Gork himself, can go and do that work.
Yeah.
And get back there. So it's just the output of those Fyreslayer box are just crazy.
There's no ambiguity over whether things are going to die when they charge. Is he going to roll bad? Doesn't matter. He would have to roll almost nothing to knock kill that unit. Yeah. You just know they are guaranteed to all intents and purposes to be dead what they charge.
Yeah, it's just an outrageous volume of output. And then they don't even often need to pile and attack twice. But what that does, it gets them an extra 3 inches of movement, which is almost their full movement turn.
Yeah, again, doubled. Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny thing playing against Fyreslayers. You have to deny them getting their extra pile-ins, and a lot of the time just deny them getting charges, not because you don't want them to kill things, but because you don't want them to get more free movement, because they really have got to overcome that. They're amazing at everything except movement. So if you can punish them in that area, that's where you have to, but it's hard to, because they're not that slow.
No, well, I actually played Colin at one of the heats, and Legion of Asgore got a particularly great spell, which makes you minus 1 to hit, but most importantly makes you unable to run. So that block of 30 Hearthguard Berserkers was just moving 4 inches every single turn, and he was most annoyed.
See, my Fyreslayer opponents never fail a 4+ on their spell save, so I wouldn't know what that feels like.
Sneaky Dan's asked, out of interest, I was wondering about how Skaven do at this event. There are some Skaven players, but I actually don't know if there are any on the top tables. There are definitely a Slanesh on tables 1 and 2, but there is also a Bone Splitters list on table 2, potentially doing really well, and if my eyes do not deceive me, a Nagash list on table 3, potentially doing very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are a few Skaven lists. I think there's about 4, which is still quite a lot as a percentage, but they're all sort of mid-tables ish at the moment.
So Sneaky Dan's actually asking me if there's anything wrong with Skaven at the minute. They're not. They actually are doing so well. They're the second most popular army in Age of Sigmar at the minute. 9% of the meta is made up of Skaven armies, and they have the 3rd best win rate in the game, with a 58% win rate. 58% win rate. So doing really, really, really well. Ian Spink, that's right, Ian Spink, currently on 2 wins. Baby's on his 3rd. He's going to have to start fighting the big boys in a minute. So he saw a 5-inch charge from this unit of Fyreslayers at the bottom. And Nathan, did we see the big block of 30 Hearthguard Berserkers fail the charge? And they've just rolled their charge. They've rolled a 7. That is really heartbreaking. Some of you might know Nathan Prescott being a big squig lover. He's actually at the tabletop now, having to watch Dwardin, who he also loves, beating up squigs. It's like an orange massacre that he never wanted to witness. So as you can see, an 8-inch charge there from the Hearthguard Berserkers. So they've made their charge. The unit at the bottom has also made their charge. So at the end of this round, there will not be much less.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, real shame. So, an interesting random fact for you.
Oh, go for it.
The Rip 2 Fist on a General and a Maw Crusher, which reflects wounds on a 6, works against shooting, because of the way it's worded.
Currently, until it's been FAQ'd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So, yeah, Raju was on the stream in game 1, just had some bullets bounce back into his face. Yeah, punching bullets out there.
Yeah, just straight back. Buff, buff, buff. No one wants that.
No one wants that.
Just like Wonder Woman. I don't think it's fair to equivocate Wonder Woman and
a Maw Crusher.
A Mega Boss or Maw Crusher, but there we go. Older armies only make up 4 of the top 20 at the event. 2 times Fyreslayers, 1 Deepkin and 1 Stormcast seems to be in a tough spot, especially with the win rate for Stormcast being so low. 45%, one of the worst performing armies, but the most popular army.
I think
that's really upsetting. The Rune Father has made a 12-inch charge.
He's even getting in to keep his bubble. I'm not sure there's any good reasons to equivocate like Order, Death and things as factions anymore, because really every book's a book. Like, it makes no difference if Order as a whole are doing well or Chaos as a whole are doing well, because they don't really have anything to do with each other outside of fluff. So, I don't know that it's really a thing. It would be nice if everyone was balanced perfectly against each other.
Yeah, I personally, I quite like the units inside of, let's say, a Grand Alliance like Destruction. I do like them in it. Like the Gloomspite have obviously had quite a while. It's been great. When eventually the old Gutbusters come out, the more tribes, I think it would be really fun to have them on the tabletop. I do like how there does often seem to be a real feeling about a Destruction Army. Destruction Army just goes and smashes.
Yeah.
Like the Cunning Rook version always felt a bit wrong. I think that's how people felt really wrong about it. And then, Death Armies traditionally they're quite tanky, and they need the update, but they're getting a brand new book in 2 weeks, so that's going to be. It's a very fresh game, very, very fresh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of people trying to work through some of the problems, and some of the problems are probably things that the game designers themselves need to relook at. Well, they definitely need to look at an attack, but there's a lot of opportunity to see things happen.
Yeah. I think we're having a little round-table conversation earlier, and saying that outside of Slaanesh, the game's not in a terrible place. Slaanesh gatekeep a lot of armies that could exist if Slaanesh weren't there as well, so it'd get even more diverse. So it's not that bad. Could be better, but not terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the return of the stats show in a few weeks, you'll be able to see exactly how your favourite stats, your armies are getting on. I'm very much looking forward to that. And because, and Ian, I know you're a big fan of this, numbers just don't lie. They just do the work. And when
much like a Graveguard, they do the work.
Yeah, exactly. But then, and Slaanesh just sat right on the top of the pile with a 70% win rate, basically, which is very high. 10%, everything should sit between 40 and 60%. And interestingly, I haven't even checked what Gloomspite Gitz are at. Let me go find this out. I'm excited to find.
Gloomspite probably suffer from the same stats-related anomalies as Stormcast. They're played by a lot of people.
So half as many people play Gitz as they do Stormcast, but still quite popular. 5.2%, that's pretty good. But 46%, so not much better than Stormcast, really.
Not the choice of a lot of top players because of their struggles to finish games in the best iterations. I think a lot of, and you get a lot of hate for playing those lists on top tables because it's a slow army. It's because it's got a lot of models and.
Yeah, some builds certainly are very slow. I agree. On a slightly different note, it doesn't seem odd like output armies are ascendant over control armies in general. The issue is the volume of control versus the volume of output.
Yeah.
And the output, it used to be you could probably control anything in the game, but some units, like we're about to see with this Fyreslayer block in the center, you just cannot control.
Yeah.
They just do too much damage, and they're too survivable.
Yeah.
If ever you've hit a block of 30 Witch Elves with all the buffs on, that Fyreslayer block is the same, but worse, with twice as many wounds.
Just comes down to it's just simple maths again. There's a point at which everything else is irrelevant, and you just have to look at the maths to see just how much they output compared to even more expensive units. It's too much.
So those Boingrot Bounders have got 19 saves to make up -1, which is going to give them a 5-up save. But each one is 2 wounds each, which is going to be a Boingrot Bounder dead. They've got 2 wounds.
Yeah.
So they are potentially coming off the board there. But it doesn't look like all of them. Or maybe...
Maybe not.
There are 3 left.
Okay.
3 left. So what Tom takes off now is actually going to be really important because the activate and pile in again, he might be able to keep his squigs alive.
Yeah.
And stop Colin wanting to pile in within 3 of the squigs.
Don't take those off. I think Tom's on full tilt now. Unfortunately,
so this might be longer than 3 inches, plus another inch for the weapons. I think those axes are 1 inch range. I'll double check. Nathan, is he armed with the broad axes? And they are 2 inch.
They are 2, yeah.
So if that's not 5 inches, let's have a quick look.
I reckon
that's 5 inches.
Yeah.
But not all of them, and that will bring in potentially both of the.
Yeah. I think at this point, though, because he's on top of the game, he can afford to have the Fyreslayers take a hit to put some more wounds out.
Yeah. But there's also some things to say for the activations. Because the moon is up, I'm going to get this right, he's going to be able to pile in 6 in that table edge. Thanks, Nate. Already got there. Smashed it. So that means that what could potentially be happening is he's looking to pile these in 6 after that unit is activated again. But it does mean he's going to have to activate here. This unit then activates, so then he's going to activate the Boingrots. Then the last activation is going to be this unit here, unless Colin is clever, remembers he's charged this unit and activates. And then, unfortunately, Tom has got to then pile in 6 inches. Yeah. So it's all whether or not Colin remembers the hero he charged.
And he is quite good at Warhammer, so you would expect he probably will.
He is quite good. But it's like we talked about, it's an easy mistake to make.
It is.
It's easy mistake to make. You see it from chess grandmasters, and those guys practice a lot. They're a lot. Evening, Naprantine. Orange bearded men slashing stuff is wonderful to see.
I'm sure Tom will appreciate the compliment.
So the Squig Hopper Riders in the bottom left-hand corner, they have killed a Fyreslayer. And that is not easy because they've got no rend. They're literally just slapping people. And they're against a pretty scary unit.
Yeah. I mean, that's a moral victory. You can... It's a victory.
It's a moral one.
Moral victory for the Squigs.
Do you feel like at the moment that all the Squigs ran in the centre, we should have just turned it off? Do you sometimes feel like that? Go Mulligan.
I really feel for Tom because this was a good mission for him. Not the best matchup, having to go into Fyreslayers, but the mission was good for him, and he's playing on stream, and Tom is genuinely a lovely guy, and he's getting more practiced and better at the game, and he's made a monster mistake there, and it's just thrown the game off for him. He's going to be so upset. And, I feel bad for him.
The thing is I haven't seen many people commit this volume of Squigs to the tabletop.
Yeah.
And I actually think that I played Nathan with it recently, the Squigs particularly, and I do genuinely think that they have got some great utility. The Bounders and the Mangler Squigs, so you can really do some work with them. My issue is that bodies is that they're all there in this particular list, all their screening units are quite small.
Yeah, they can't quite put out the volume of good screen, like the screen with a save you really want to see, or the really efficient wounds, or whatever it is, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, flying is just great. We see from Deepkin, like high-level Deepkin play, it doesn't even matter how good you are in combat. Just having fast units that fly is a big deal in an objective-based game like Age of Sigmar. Really, really big deal. Very, very important, especially because the battle lines that you draw up, there aren't many hordes that fly. So the battle lines that you draw up, having a little sneaky unit that can pop over the top to go and grab it is a big deal. I don't know what's just happened there. Carl has just donated $10 to the show, so keep up the great coverage. And I just want to say a big thank you. It's very nice of you. I don't know if anyone's ever done. Oh no, some people have, but that's real nice. Yeah, cheers, Carl. It's our pleasure. Sometimes it would be nice if the players helped us with the coverage as well. It'd be nice if they didn't didn't do that.
But it also gives us a great opportunity to learn.
They're out there doing their best, and we're just here talking about it.
Yeah, they are. Eddie is trying his hardest. Genuinely, I don't imagine. What has he lost really? He's lost some hoppers, and he's lost 15 Boingrots. That's quite a big blow. And I'm not saying that. And I think, but he's also the key bit that he's lost is these 2 objectives.
Yeah,
that's really big.
And the tables now sort of turned in a way that Colin owns like this part of the board. This is just about percentage of the board you control because there's 8 objectives, right? So Colin's got to can take out these 2, but the worst thing is if he doesn't need to burn them. Then things get really bad for the other person because Tom's got nothing left that can go and take them back off Colin. So Colin's can keep those 2, and this unit can now start walking up this way. That's when things get really bad, when the other person isn't even threatened and needs to burn them. Because now he's going to score them. He's not going to score D3, he's going to score another 4 by the end of the game. And Tom, on the other hand, if he wants to turn the table sideways and sort of come over this way, he's still got a unit to fight through. He's still got a attrition. And while all that's going on, there's 30 Hearthguard in the middle doing what they want. So I think it's going to be tough. Tom really needed to slow the game down a lot, and he did the opposite one way or another.
Yeah, he sped it all the way up. I think I would have maybe tried to cycle through this back line. I think he was really unlucky, to be honest, to get this charge happened. That made a big deal, and there was very little he could do about that.
Yeah.
But then also not getting Hand of Gork off has affected his game there. But then that little unit here, they would just go womp anything he put over there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things he could have done, but it would have been a very tricky game of Age of Sigmar to play for him, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a challenge, I'm not going to lie to you, but I can't wait to see where he goes with this turn. Because he does have some big pieces still on the board. By the way, the Hearthguard have just activated again and removed those finals. So now both those squigs can pile in.
They do. They are dragons in stats. They are very, very good in combat.
But they also now can't be touched this round.
Yeah.
And next turn, one of them can activate and then run away. So that's three. Oh, the Mangler, sorry, has actually taken 2 wounds. So one of them was able to reach and take 2 wounds. So plenty enough. But two doesn't even take him down a bracket, so that's good.
Really good.
So there we go. Pile in.
Fyreslayers are very, very tough, but these are, my thing for Mangler Twig is visually they don't look as tough as they really are. They have the same stats as like a Vampire Lord and a Zombie Dragon, which we know is very good generally. So, I've taken out most of a unit of 30 Hardcore Berserkers with like 2 Keepers of Secrets over a few turns before when I've gotten a little bit lucky. I mean, it was 4 different Keepers of Secrets, but in normal person terms, it was 2 models. So, if these manage to attack then stay alive, depending on the retreating charge and so on, you could take a good chunk out this unit.
Crazy Horse, thanks very much for getting a bits badge. Mangler's going to eat some dwarves. I think they might, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
I think the problem with Fyreslayers as well is you eat them, but then they do that thing where they come back out your chest, waving their axe like they've killed you from inside. So I'm not sure eating them is the best plan.
So what Mangler Squig has currently done, he's killed 1 Red Dwarf. Is that all of his attacks?
1 dwarf.
So the current save on the
goes
Fyreslayer unit is a 3-up save, 4-up ignore, 2 wounds each.
It's just not right.
It's just so hard to get through, and it is a very expensive block. There isn't much left on the board, but the fact that you can hit it and it hits you back, so like Plague Bearers are just crying at the moment. Yeah, they're like, I'm kind of hard to hit. He's like, but you just tickle me back.
Units shouldn't do everything. Like if you're gonna be tough, you shouldn't also be good in that good in offense, or vice versa. And although Fyreslayers are a bit slow, they're not that slow. They've got buffs to make them go faster, which Colin's running. They pile in twice, which is another 3-inch move. Anyway, they got a bonus to charge. So Fyreslayers don't really have any weaknesses apart from like their board coverage. And although they're less oppressive than Slaanesh, I actually think they're one of the least fun armies to play against, because you can't really do anything.
No.
Unless you kill Slaanesh and then they come back, but that makes them have to decide where they're coming back. You can kill the characters, counterplay like you talked about before. There's no counterplay to Fyreslayers other than just to not play the game against them.
Yes, which is why we've seen a lot of. There we go. So we've seen the active. So the second Mangler has killed 3 dwarves.
Okay.
No, 4 in fact.
Okay.
So 5 in total died from that unit. It's not great, but it takes him down to 25. And they are expensive. There is a premium on them. They are a lot.
I mean, that was 120 hull point stat.
Yes, and it took nearly 300 points to combat to, well, 600 points to combat to do that 120 points. So you're right, they are very, very survivable.
They are very good. But that's fair. You can see he's done 5 there, albeit he's had the run of the activations to do it and not being hit in between. But he's killed 5. You can see how they could kill them.
Yeah. So someone in the chat is asking, apart from bad rolls, like why isn't the Fyreslayer block dying? They are just so survivable. It's just their save is really good. Their armor save is just solid, and then they've got that 4-up ignore afterwards, and then 2 wounds each. So he only lost 5 dwarves, but that was actually 10 wounds.
That was probably average-ish. Yeah, the first one only killed 1, but the second one killing 4 was above average. So that was probably not a bad turns fighting. I don't think there's any
10 wounds is great
issues.
because you would have to do 20 damage, and then the 4-up saves takes that down to the 10.
Yeah.
So just think about it in that. So really, before you ignore the armor saves, like before you even talk about the armor saves, that 60 wounds in the block requires you to do 120 wounds to it. But then you have to, before that, apply the armor save. So if you double it, if you don't have any rend, you have to do 240 damage to the block, and then it will definitely kill you in return.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy good. So Hand of Gork's just been cast successfully, which is definitely a thing that needed to happen for Tom to stay in the game at this point, I think.
It is. It really is. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Crazy Horse. We are trying to make the event coverage better and better as we go forward. Lucky that we've got events like the Justice Series and Bloodshed and a bunch of other. We've got Crimbobo coming up. We've got CanCon. Woohoo!
Oh,
World's biggest
what a rush
event.
That'll be. Yeah.
That's going to be a delight.
Oh, a Mangler Squig into the back line.
Oh,
he's going to go for it. He's going to take the objective and kill that unit.
Yes, he is. That's very interesting.
And that's his retreat one as well, so that could... No, there's no way you can take 2 in a turn. But that's a big thing you got to worry about in your backlines.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And because it can cause some rampage. I think what he's going to then do is the Boingrots are going to go over.
Yeah. And he can burn all these objectives. You know, if he can manage to take 3 of these 4 objectives and then burn them all, we could be in for a game. I do like that. He might be feeling like his head's gone down a bit right now. I'm sure he is because I know him. But I also think I'm glad to see that he's still playing the game. He's still doing what he can.
Yeah.
Like he's not just giving up and charging the block or something.
Come on, Tom. Yeah, loads of love. You've got this. Let's get it going. Colin, you just keep beating people up. Like LOV says in the chat, first Daughters of Cain and then Slayers. Does Colin have a thing for naked people with indestructible thongs?
Yes.
I
think he does.
Yeah, we'll ask our table boss if that's what's how Colin feels about that. If he's got a thing for that, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Who knows?
Colin actually plays a lot of and played a lot of Stormcast as well, which he likes to remind people when he's like, I didn't always play good armies.
He says indestructible naked things are his favourite thing. Okay, so we just had that confirmed from the tabletop, though. And he also loves painting flesh. There's a lot of flesh to paint.
There is a lot of flesh to paint.
So no, the Squigs are going to go over there.
Oh, is he going to try?
Just trying to outscore him.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Because
he can move the other unit up behind and just score that without actually having a fight.
Yes.
And just burn the objective, which is a good idea, and that's clever.
I mean, to be honest, I would probably just hit them with the Boingrots.
I think so. I think he needs to take some chances that have taken some stuff off the board at this point.
Yeah, so I would fly over and I would actually charge them with the Boingrots, because this isn't a guaranteed charge by any stretch of the imagination. Then I'd charge the Boingrots first. If I get in, I would then roll this and then see how I felt about the activations.
Yeah.
And then just leave those Squigs. Problem is what he's done, and this is a common mistake that people make, is what he has to do is make sure he charges here and then bunny hops his own unit.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, they'll just pile in and kill that unit. So, always important to remember. The way to be at Fyreslayers is to outmaneuver them for objectives. The issue is that they can take up a huge volume of space when they want to. It's 32 mil bases. But if there's going to be a scenario to do it in, it's on Total Conquest like this.
Yeah, on Scorched there.
Because it's pretty much, I mean, I think it's, that I don't know how you feel, and I haven't actually looked at it straight on at the minute, but General Handbook 2019 has got a lot of objectives in the centre.
Yeah.
A lot of the centre. I really like this one because it pulls you so far out. Like it's quite a wide scenario in all of the ways, and I definitely know that some of the armies, both Slaanesh and First Street Courts, I think struggle in this scenario because it's hard for them to screen the backboard because they normally start quite light with units.
This scenario makes you play the board, certainly, and it's really, I like. There's a good mix, I think, now. Like the new Star Strike is maybe a bit more random than the old one, but it also makes you play the board as well, like we saw before. So I think definitely the best mission set we ever had. Some less stupid ones than we've had in the past, maybe, and a few more that were toned down. So it's a good time for missions in Age of Sigmar, I think, right now.
I think so as well. I think it's a really good place. And now that we've all basically abandoned using the realms, like it's a more consistent playing field as well.
Yeah.
Like it just makes a lot more sense. So all overall, I'm pretty happy about it. Just we want Squigs to get buffs. I want them all to be half price.
Yeah.
Just Squigs all the time. I don't think I'd ever be mad if the Squigs were at the level of Sinesh. I'd just be like, that's fine.
No. Yeah.
I'd be like, whatever. I'll paint some Squigs up too.
Yeah.
Let's all roll random distance movement and see where we end up.
Summon 4 more Mangler Squigs this turn, yeah. Seems fine. Mangle away.
America still loves playing in the realms. It's crazy. It's okay. 6 months, you'll catch up.
Like usually. Last time I said something like that, the whole of Australia hated me for months. That was a joke, let's just be clear.
It's okay. They hate Mark Wildman way more, which I'm happy about. Please keep hating it. I was super pumped about going over to CanCon, actually.
Yeah.
Super pumped. The community there, just unreal. Just unreal. Just like such a great group of dudes.
I'd love to go, but I've got kids and I don't want to get bitten by a spider and die. So I worry about going to Australia.
That actually doesn't happen as much as you think, but it does
happen.
Happens enough. It happens enough. So yeah, you're right. So the Mangler has failed his charge and has failed his reroll, which is not what I was expecting at all.
That is a pisser. I wonder if Collins, I assume that was the bottom right corner one we're talking about. I wonder if this is within 6 of that objective, or is that Mangler taking it on its own?
I'm going to go for it's not.
It's very close, isn't
based
it?
on my eyeballs, but we'll see.
That could be Here's the thing, it's going to be either way. As long as Tom stays in the game, it's going to be tight on objective points. You know, who can maximise their scores every turn, and missing out on these little things because you failed a 6-inch charge or something like that can be quite crucial.
And we are set up into a priority role now, so the board space could change a lot. I think the key here is to try as much as he can to clear out the units that aren't the block of 30 in the centre. So I think he's made the right play there. Only I just think Colin did really well by basically putting an offensive unit at the front, which was backed up by the 30. So you had to deal with the offensive unit, and then if you didn't, you just and then as we saw when he won the priority, the big 30 unit could go and deal with what you've sent in. So he's just set himself. It's really interesting. Most people castle and countercharge. He just deploys and countercharges. So Tom has taken. Tom has taken this objective in the bottom left, this objective in the top center, kind of, and has burnt them for D3 points to take them, which he could have just rolled the priority and then done at the end of that.
Yeah.
But I guess he just wants to get the points now, just in case.
I think if he loses priority now, it's probably just over, because there's too much stuff going to die. And there's too many objectives Colin's going to burn. So I agree with you. I would have kept them and hoped for the priority, because I think that's his, again, playing to his outs. That's his path to victory right now.
So the moon is in the middle of the board now. This is the strongest a Gloomspite Gitz army is. And unfortunately, Colin wins the priority 4-2. Almost certain he's going to take it. So Tom outshone us there in the decision to take it. Chudred, I hope I got that right. Thank you very much for subscribing to Twitch, and thank you to everyone who has done today. It's been you guys have been real nice today. Appreciate it loads. So Colin has activated the rune that makes his units have an extra +1 rend. And last time, so they've got 1 less attack than they did in the round before, but they've got +1 rend. So
they certainly needed more offensive power. I feel.
Yes.
So he's really got no reason not to go in now, right? He's going to go into some places.
So this unit at the bottom here, the Hearthguard in the centre, they've got +1 save. So they're now sat on that 3-up save, 4-up ignore again. Basically about as survivable as a unit can be.
Yeah. And all Colin wants to do now really is this unit is going to try and do this. I mean, when this unit, so what you do in this situation, this unit can string out and it can charge this, but the guys over on this edge can use their charge to go that way, because there's no reason to charge towards them all. So he can easily get enough movement out of these Fyreslayers to take all 4 of those objectives this turn, and he doesn't need to burn them because Tom's never taken them back. Because if he takes those, he's not taking some other ones, and Tom's going to run out of units very rapidly that can contest this board.
Yeah, I think so. I think and because he's just never had the strike, he hasn't struck here with those. The Boingrots, he's had 2 units of Boingrots and 2 Manglers, and they've been charged and never charged, and they technically are faster than those Fyreslayers.
Yeah.
So that's for me, that's been the major sticking point, in that he hasn't had the opportunity to actually bring to bear the power that his army possesses, and all he's doing is getting hit.
Yeah. Given that they only get their mortals on the charge as well, they really want to be charging. And,
they do.
And right now he's not. Not
yeah, he missed out on a load of mortal wounds with that block of 15 not charging. But I think we all know that there were some big mistakes made there in that turn.
Yeah.
Colin now, I think, is just going to consolidate. He's only a point behind, but he is sat. He hasn't burnt any D3s, so he sat on those 2. He easily can come and take these here, I think. Our Crazy Horse, thanks for donating $5. When will the Honest Wargamer Vegetarian Cookbook go on pre-sale? Soon. It's mainly cheese sandwiches.
Different kinds of cheese, different kinds of bread. I heard mushrooms are also popular.
They're very popular. They're very popular. There's a guy who thinks that mushrooms are sentient. It's a whole different book. I'll send you the link. Very interesting. And to be honest, based on Games Workshop lore, they are, and they're on the tabletop. Just not that sentient.
Yeah, not sentient enough to realise they can't charge after they run. Semi-sentient.
Do you know what Tom is never going to do again?
He's never going to do that, no.
He's never going to do that.
They are the mistakes that teach you the most as well, when you absolutely flat out lose the game because of them. That's why when you're practicing, taking things back is not a good idea. You want to get battered because you remember it and it sticks in your brain.
It really does. And nothing like being on the TV will ever remind you ever again.
No.
He'll be playing games with his friends and they'll be like, do you know you can't run and charge?
And we will 100% not put the rerun of this show on the screens at JustPlay next time it's club night. Definitely not going to happen.
Never ever. Like, he won't ever have to worry about it. So let's take a little wander around the tabletop, shall we? While we wait and see how exactly Colin decides to beat him up. Colin's army, by the way, real nice. Let's go zoom.
Good painter, Colin. This furnace was painted at the last Warhammer heat in the 20 minutes.
Oh, was it?
Before the
but the Fyreslayers look amazing. Look at those dudes.
Yeah, he's a good painter, Colin.
They look great.
Yeah.
Let's be a bit. Oh, so he's just. How does he know that I'm about to look at them?
I'd like to assume that they were all being taken off because they're dead, but I don't think that's the case.
No, they've moved away over there. There you go. They look great. They are cool. They are cool little models.
Yeah,
they are cool. So they've just decided to move away from the Boingrots there and go and consolidate onto their back objective, which is that a mistake? Because if he charges, they're pinned in.
I think he's got so much control of the board now, and he's got so much scoring he can do every turn. All he needs to do is keep scoring. And, you know, he knows that he's not that scared of 15 Boingrots. Even if they kill his unit, a lot of the Boingrots are going to die. They're going to be busy in combat for a couple of turns, at least. And he's happy with that. Plus, if that objective hadn't been burned, he might have stayed there, but it's gone now anyway, so he might as well just hang.
So so we're in the movement phase for Fyreslayers. That's where we are right now. They don't have much of a hero phase. It's like not watching a Tzeentch army play. So we're seeing some of the characters running up to support, and then I think we're going to see a dead Mangler Squig here, and a very, very dead Fungoid Cave Shaman at the back of the board. Do you think? Can you picture a scenario where the Loon Shrine? Obviously, it's got that tunnel entrance. Do you reckon the 30 Hearthguard Berserkers, when they're done mopping up the board, are going to wander down there like the miners from Snow White and start, hey-ho, it's Squigs we're going to go.
Maybe. I mean,
I wish I hadn't done that.
They'll have nothing else to do after this battle round, so maybe that's the thing they'll go and do. Steal some Squig beer.
Yeah, go down there.
Find all the Troggoths that are hiding down there because no one wanted to pay the points for them.
This is where all the Troggoth armies are. They're hidden. I think there'll be some angry Troggoth players in the chat right now. It'd be cool if the Loontrine had some sort of rule where if you got too close to it, you just got you just lost a model.
Troll hand came
a
out.
little troll hand and just grabbed one out.
Someone needs to convert one now with a troll hand coming out grabbing a Fyreslayer.
No.
The problem with that is if his hand was coming out grabbing a Fyreslayer, the Fyreslayer would murder him and his entire family on his own. Probably.
At least watching the Fyreslayers in combat now really makes us understand why Gotrek is so good in the game.
Yeah. Awesome.
I don't think the Troggoth players will wake up long enough to get angry in chat.
It's quite late in the day now. It's past feeding time.
They're having naps. What I really enjoy is this very expensive unit here, who's just absolutely now indestructible.
Yeah.
They've got no threats. No one's worrying them. He's also moved off to try and hold this objective, which is quite hard to do. Would we not been smarter to part? Oh, because then he can run away.
Yeah, he's got no reason to attack anything because he's ahead on points. He's going to be even further ahead on points after this turn. Whilst these, small 15-man units are hanging out doing nothing, this one's just doing what it wants, and it's only early in the game as well.
Yeah, turn 3. We're only midway through the game, and it's still it's all to play for. I agree with you about slowing the game down. Actually, I think if Tom had done that in turn 1, not forgetting he already gave the turn away, he really could have set up something quite interesting.
Yeah.
A big shout out, AD pointing out there that Colin's movement on the tabletop is really precise. I really like to see that. I think you'll see Colin pretty much eschewing using dice. Movement 4 makes it a bit easier, but those sticks really do make the difference in my opinion.
Yeah. So just doing some maths because I'm a fan. If Colin burns all 4 of these objectives this turn, even if he rolls 1s on all of them, he's going to score 6 points, which will put him on 14. There's only 2 objectives left, which means the maximum Tom can score for the rest of the game, if he holds them, will put him on 15. So as long as Colin rolls 6 points on those 4d3, the game's over. There's hidden agendas to play for, though.
There is hidden agendas to play for.
Not too sure what they are in this game, but they are a big part of the score.
We'll find out. Our table boss should be able to let us know what the hidden agendas are in a minute. We'll find out. Colin got his last hidden agenda when he had to kill 3 units in a turn in the last combat. So
Tom, the scoring we're using at the Justice series is you get a point for scoring your hidden agenda, and a point if you deny your opponent's. So it makes you play the game a little bit. So there's 2 points there. So what Tom's got now, assuming Colin's going to win the game, which I think mathematically it's very hard not to, his last point he's playing for is to try and just deny Tom's objective for max score.
Yeah, some other interesting things actually. Looking at some of the other games that are going off, you've got Ian Spink. You got Ian Spink is currently playing against Sinesh, but he's already beaten a Fyreslayer player today with his Bone Splitters. So if Colin does go through to tomorrow which looks very likely at the minute to go through on 3 wins, we might see Bone Splitters have to take Fyreslayers on. But with a win already under the Hunter's belt, maybe we'll see the Fyreslayers go down. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, the Bone Splitters have definitely got the damage output to fight against the Fyreslayers. They've got the movement, certainly, with all these multi-moves and flying pigs, everything that they can do. And they're less good in defense, but still pretty wound efficient. That'd be an interesting matchup, depending on the scenario.
So we're seeing the charge now for the that is unfortunate. So the charge has gone off for that big block of 30 Hearthguard Berserkers, enough to get into the Moonclan Shaman, not Moonclan Shaman, so sorry, Gloomspite Gitz Shaman, which also means he's going to activate Pile-in 3 and be here, and then he's going to activate and Pile-in again, get to that objective, which means it's only taken him from turn 3 to go from this here to just everywhere.
So everywhere. Tell me again how Fyreslayers are slow.
Yeah.
That's their disadvantage.
The Irish chin in the chat, mathematically, so it could happen though. He could roll really badly on the D3 as stated, so it's not a definite yet. So if I were him, which he can definitely do, is I'd just sit on these for a turn now.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't burn them, but if he if he wanted to burn them, it'd be almost impossible. Because I mean, that was assuming Tom takes these two, that quick mat, and holds them for the whole game as well. When there's a unit of 15 guys here who can come this way, and those 30 will be done in a second, so they can go this way as well.
Yeah.
It's not enough stuff left for Tom, and not really anywhere to run once the dwarves have finished using the magical fire, presumably to set fire to these objectives. Like, if you had magical fire, you wouldn't use normal fire, would you?
No,
you'd raise these by summoning magical fire.
That would be the only way to do it.
I assume.
It'd be the only way.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine Fyreslayers have got almost no matches in their houses. Like, none.
No.
They're like, why would I can just do magical fire.
The fire's just there. Yeah.
But their name doesn't make tons of sense. They're Fyreslayers. Do they kill fire?
How can you kill fire?
Yeah, can you kill water? I think
Yeah.
is the or foam.
Does that mean Deepkin should beat these all the time?
Yeah, all the time.
Because they do not.
Me, Jonathan, and Nathan did an entire show where we went through every war scroll in Age of Sigmar, just when the Deepkin was released, and we were like, would they survive the flood or not? There were very few that would. Very few would. It was a real serious show. 3.5 hours of utter rubbish. But Phoenixes are fine because they just freeze the water, sit on top.
That's a good point. But then if you're a Fyreslayer, you walk along, do you melt it and fall through? Yes. Unanswered questions.
Unanswered questions in the Mortal Realms.
We'll never know the
But
answer
thankfully,
to these
you'll
things.
probably be able to read some great stories like that at Black Library. The paperback versions. They're just so good, full of story, emotive dialogue.
Take your word for it. I am not. The Age of Sigmar lore in general has grown on me, and when people tell me about it, like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on, but I've never put any time into sort of like getting up to speed.
It honestly changes the tabletop for me.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not me just running my continual gag about that. It really does put something. Like, I love that squigs are mushrooms. I love that I know that isn't just a piece of plastic. The loon shrine isn't just a piece of plastic. I know that it's a little tunnel down into the dank hold, and in there's some nutters who turn prophets into mushrooms and speak to them, and then they all speak like Nathan and just scream at things. Like, it just makes me chuckle, and it does bring it alive. I think
it does add more to the game. Yeah.
But I love the game just as much. But I think it's real sweet.
It matters, and like, a lot of people think when you play competitively you don't care anything about the rest of the game, but like, one of the reasons I've been struggling to play Age of Sigmar for a long time is I'm not actually into any of the army fluff. Like, death has always been my thing, and when they sort of went a bit bad, and I didn't want to play anymore, so it's like it's had an effect on me as well, like not being into the fluff. So
yeah. Well, maybe the OC Bone Reapers will have a good narrative you enjoy.
Yeah. Hopefully they have fluff and good rules.
Fyreslayers are going to be so annoyed when they go down the Loon Shrine tunnel, thinking they'll find Urgold and end up in front of a mountain of glass bottles. So the Mangler is dead, and also the Shaman is dead. So we've got a dead. I wonder if he's going to make them pile in just so we can go get that. I wonder if that's within 6. But the Mangler is gone for like literally.
Can't pile in that way. He's got to go towards the nearest model. So
that's a really good point.
Now he's killed everything, he can't actually pile.
It's got to go that way.
But he's probably in 6. I don't even think he needs that objective.
Yeah, he probably doesn't need to.
Yeah. But I think either way, I mean, that was a win more thing that would have happened there. But I wonder why Colin didn't pile his Fyreslayers around the model. I think he's probably just made a mistake there.
Yeah, so there was a unit here. He could have just piled in around. That would have got him within 6.
Yeah.
Pretty certain, and it still would have done the damage. So end of Colin's turn, he scored another 5. And now it really, really is down to what's going to happen in this game here. What Tom is going to do. In Colin's turn, he only lost... he lost his Shaman and he lost the Mangler. So big losses, absolutely. But he's still got those unit of 15 Boingrots, and he still has the Loon Boss on Mangler Squig here.
Yeah.
So he has got tools. It's just Colin's got so many more on the board now.
Yeah. And now after that extra turn of scoring 1s without burning, next time he can burn those 4 and just mathematically end it again.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Tom's got to be thinking now, if he's thinking about his overall score and his overall place, this Loon Boss has got his artifact.
Yes.
So, and this could potentially survive the whole game and never get killed. So, even if he shakes Colin's hand at this point, he's got to say, look, this is going to run away from you the whole game.
Yeah, and it's going to be really, really hard to pin him down. And to be honest, what he could do, now this isn't obvious. Okay, so we've heard there's a plan. There's a plan to finish turn 3 and then go to the bar. I would say that a really solid plan with over 70 minutes left on the clock. I would say that this Mangler Squig should just pop through that realm gate.
Yeah.
He'd just be like, look, we're not built for snowy climbs.
We're done. And there's a bar on the other side of this realm gate. Let's go. If only we had someone to run with another realm gate to the bar, with a matching red realm gate.
Mickey Wendell in the chat, big love. Come on, Colin, you baldy love, is what he said.
That's not what that says, Rob.
It is now, so dads can watch it with their kids at home. The bar has glass bottles, that's correct. It's like the bottom of a loon shrine. This is really sad. This is not the game we thought it would be.
It's not. But, that's Age of Sigmar for you, isn't it?
It is.
Sometimes, even with perfectly matched armies, sometimes you just get one person fails, always rolls horribly, and then you wish you'd streamed something else.
Yeah, I think this was always going to be a challenge for Tom.
Yeah, it was a hard game regardless, yeah. And Colin's a lot more of an experienced player as well.
But that doesn't mean... that was what's been really interesting. When we were over in the Republic of Ireland at the Hero Phase GT, when Mick was helping with the commentating, did a great job, just like you are, Ian. Thank you so much. Mick was learning all sorts of things about what was or wasn't a swear word.
Oh, right.
Yeah, just had no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Irish just think everything's not a swear word.
It's just words.
We just do what we like. Just call it a word.
So those 15 Boingrots, please do something at this stage.
Yeah.
I'm kind of mad that they're not.
Go and try and smash that unit of Fyreslayers off the board.
Yeah. I would also agree with Seraphage in the chat. Squig lists are pretty unforgiving. That's why I like the pure Squig lists. I'll tell you what, though, Tom has inspired me, to go write some Squig lists. And I mean that in all seriousness. I like that they fly. You think about Idneth Deepkin, one of the greatest abilities that they have is that they fly. That they fly. You can put more bodies. You can put more bodies on the board with Squigs than you can with Deepkin. But they've still got that real scary threat range. I don't know.
I think that's some of the initial lists that were getting thrown out when the Gloomspite Gitz book came out, with lots of Boingrots in, just spamming the Boingrots, because they are pretty efficient as a unit in points. Might have some legs. No, I've never seen anyone play a Boingrot spam list. But I think Boingrots and Mangler Squigs is potentially an army. It might not be the pinnacle best, but you could definitely go and win lots
I think
of games
actually where it's really strong. Again, I played Nathan recently with an MSU, so he just took the Boingrots as another element in the army. He had Fellwater Trogos, another element. Web Spinner Shaman, another element. Grots on foot, another element. It was a real toolbox of tricks, which is very different to some of the polarized lists we currently see. Like for Gitz, for instance, a lot of Gitz. For Snesh, obviously a lot of keepers. But that toolbox really, really brings to bear. Because the Eel list has issues as well, as does this Fyreslayers list. Like board control and objectives can be quite hard for those armies sometimes. So, problem with Squeeze is the random movement, but it is a problem for you and your opponent. So you can set it up so it's more of a problem for your opponent than it is for you. I think that's the real strength.
Yeah, it's what we call breaking parity.
Is it? Explain that out to me.
Yeah. So when you both got a disadvantage or an advantage, but you got to make it work for you better. It's a magic term normally. So if you've got let's say you had a thing that gave everything on the board -1 to hit, but you can make that less bad for you by only taking units with low to hit rolls to start with. So it's worse for your opponent than it is for you. So I guess the equivalent of that in random movement is, yes, you might roll low or you might roll high, but your opponent's got to play defensively like you're going to roll high. So it is worse for your opponent than you, I think, because your opponent can't rely on you not rolling an 18.
Yeah. But with Tom's list, here as an example, this unit of 15 has to go and do the job, whereas a unit of 10 that sat behind a screen can go do the job when you roll to do the job well.
Yeah.
Which I think, and same with the Loom Boss on Mangler Squig, and there's some genuinely good long range threats that come out of the Gloomspite Gitz army.
Yeah.
The Malevolent Moon, Scuttle Tide, there's some the Moon on a Stick coming from Scragrot. It can all do some good damage, like long range.
Yeah.
But we've finally seen, there they are. They're going in, ladies and gentlemen. The Boingrots are doing their job. 15 Boingrots. They're all doing mortal wounds on the charge. Do we think that those 15 Boingrots against 15 Fyreslayers can do the work?
I hope they can, because I think Tom needs a little win just near the end.
A little
of the
emotional
game right now.
buff.
Yeah, just make him feel a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, I think his original plan of the 15 going into the 15 like less buff Fyreslayers that were down here was probably not terrible, given he needed to get some control of that board quadrant back. Obviously didn't pay off for him, but I don't think they're powerless against these Fyreslayers.
Someone in the chat is asking if the fly keyword for the Boingrots activates the Fiery Sky's ability for Legion of Asgore, but yes, absolutely, because it's in the movement phase. As long as they move 6 inches or more.
Great ability.
But it's a really terrible allegiance ability that everyone thinks is really scary.
Yeah.
It does very little.
I think it was better at one point when everything flew, when like everyone was playing Deepkin and all these kind of things. It's now everyone's playing 4-inch movement foot armies with one
very
vulnerable
destructible
saves. It's a lot less good.
So the mortal wounds that come out of the fire that came out of the Boingrot Bounders have killed 2 Fyreslayers. So they do a mortal wound on a 4+.
Yeah.
And 6s do D3. So it's a little bit. Again, you should give them at least 7 wounds. With a D3, 9 mortal wounds at least should go in. And the fact that only, I suppose he took 4 wounds after damage save. That sounds about right, actually.
Yeah, it's a good number. And it's before they get to fight, before any strike first abilities, etc., which is a nice thing to have.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be the actual last combat of the game. Oh, apart from the Mangler. Has also got to charge. Whether or not he does charge is going to be the hot goss today. What do you think?
I think he's going to charge. I mean, Colin knew he was going to charge. That's why he gave us 5 or a Carthguard +1 to save, which is not a thing that you would see very often.
No.
He's just hoping that unit lives with, a model left so he doesn't lose his objective for another turn.
Yeah, this has been a really fascinating game, especially in the do-nots. But still some things to learn. And again, I can't stress enough how interesting it is to watch the Boingrots move around and those flying units. Very much like eels, not the same output as the combat eels, absolutely, but and not the guaranteed movement. I guess that reliability is really strong as well.
Yeah, it's so good. Eels have so many things that are just great for playing Age of Sigmar with.
But they're also, what's really good about them is it's all inside their war scroll.
Yeah.
They need no support.
Yeah.
To be good. A lot like Enlightened, again, all baked into the
Just
war
as
scroll pretty much.
Except in the Battle Shock department, which is...
for both of those units,
for both
actually.
of those units, yeah, as it happens.
Yeah.
Unless they get felled reality.
Yeah, there's actually more utility inside of a Tzeentch army, for instance, to help those Enlightened out.
Yeah.
But then Eels have more... they've got the plus attacks and the pluses to charge, which also really benefit them too. And the electric shock is great.
Oh, it's so good, yeah. It trumps all of those things that are so powerful, like the strike firsts and so on and so forth. And obviously they've got their own strike first, the original always strikes first.
They have High Tide.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
But it's good because they went up by 10 points, so everything's fine.
But but Reavers, but Thrall's game down 10 points. So
legit.
Captain Andrew, please don't type exclamation at Legion in the chat. Makes me really upset. People insulting my army in my own Twitch chat.
Is that an insult? Am I missing?
Yeah, Legion for Legion of Asgore, my Chaos Dwarf army, and when you type that in, Nightbot just says that. Just rude.
I see.
Just
right,
rude at this stage.
I'm not into painting or anything like that, but I've always wanted to paint some of those models. Like big armor panels that you can do with like interesting colours and
they're really cool
stuff like that.
Honestly, it's a really cool army. It's a bit of a shame the War Machines aren't really up to scratch, but Like it's definitely a really fun army that you can go 2-3, 3-2 with at a bunch of events. And sometimes you can there's opportunities if you play your heart out 4-1s and one day that mythic 5-0 with the army. I think it's got the ability. Just everything has to go your way. It's got no give. It's not very.
I think the hammery melee war machine has like quite a sick attack profile, but if it ever gets to fight in this game of Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, especially like with what's going on now.
Yeah.
The ability for it to actually get in. But it could, because you can ally in the Zangor Shaman, Wildfire Taurus.
Yeah.
They're going in.
There's stuff in there anyway,
Yeah. So a question, Joe Boom, that you're asking Ian, and Ian, if you want to feedback. So the Boingrots, by the way, are attacking right now. Ask, how do you think Nagash would perform? With 58 attacks, wow. How do you think Nagash would perform in the current meta if he had not been nerfed? Is currently being played by Tony Moore, and I think he's on 3 wins at this event.
I think if Death hadn't been nerfed, the biggest points increase Death got was from the Grimghasts, because really it was Grimghasts that made Death work like as they did. Not Nagash. You could have taken Nagash out and replaced him with zombie dragons. The Grimghasts were still fantastic. And we've just been talking a lot now about like movement and fly. What really made Death a good army was when they got an 8-inch move unit that can fly. And previous to that, they had 4-inch move units that are on foot. And that's not something you can consistently win games of Age of Sigmar with. So the big nerf was to Grimghast, really. I think in the current meta, they're not too bad, actually. They hold Slanesh off quite well because you've got all them invulnerable saves, etc. The problem is, again, we talked earlier in the Hard Boys game about the efficiency creep, and so many of these armies now have just passed Death in efficiency, and obviously there was a big nerf, so the point now where even when you're resummoning units, you're not even getting to like parity with these new armies.
And there's also now there's also now with the release of the Drakfoot Bone Splitters, they now have a hard counter, which previously Grimghast Reapers or the Nighthawk army, they didn't have a hard counter.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that Drakfoot Bone Splitters will be particularly popular, but just the fear that you can do up against something that deletes all of your... you're paying a lot of points for that 4-up unrendable save. And the fact that that can just vanish is really upsetting. Yeah.
I think the thing you got to remember is that Nagash is still powerful, and good players playing tier 2.5 armies can still win games. And you'll see Tony Moore on the top tables, one of the best players in the country, playing an army that, is clearly not the best, but he's, I would be surprised if he finishes less than 4-1 because he's a great player. But yeah, it's Death not looking good. That army, the standard Grimghasty build went up by over 200 points. Now, when the standard Deepkin build went up by approximately 0, as an example, there's a crazy difference.
I still think right now that Nagash is still super viable. Me and Darren did a list diaries on it specifically, and I've always thought, personally myself, that the power of Nagash is in the spell lore and in their oppressive. Oh, I can get a camera. Both of the boys are very... while we still got that conversation to cut to, I'm going to go back to the tabletop. Both players... this is Colin's face. Yeah, right? So 58 attacks come out of the Boingrot Bounders. 58. And there's 15 dwarves. Do you know how many they killed?
How many?
2.
Oh, dear.
2. Just to... Look at it. 58 attacks to just kill 2 dwarves.
Don't you find the game has a way of doing that to you, like kicking you when you're down a lot of the time? That's like really a thing that happens a lot,
It was such a big deal that both of the players left the table to look at the commentary team. They were like, oh dear. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Where were we up to, Nagash? My favourite thing about Nagash is his command ability. Like, board wide battle shock immunity.
Huge.
Ignoring the other thing it does is just massive, absolutely massive. But yeah, not super viable in the current meta, but by far from unplayable. Just like, grognards like me who just want everything to be absolutely perfect, they're going to complain about it, obviously.
I think it's fair. I definitely don't think he should be the points cost he is. But I think once you realise that, like, in some games where you start getting those 9s to cast and you're doing -1 to hit there, -1 to hit there.
Oh, it's super good. Yeah.
You can really shut armies down.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested. Different play styles, different players play in different ways. I'd really like to see someone like Leo. With his kind of like attrition defense play, be a player that plays, so that's Leo Ratunin, play that style of Nagash list. I think that would be very interesting. Tony's got a very similar style as well. Tony's a very safe player. He never overcommits. He loves to debuff an army. He's just slow, methodical, and plays in a very similar style. So it's no wonder that he's decided to pick him up again, because there's some strong safety inside of that army.
That's what the army does. The army is it's tough playing armies that don't bring models back after you've played Death for 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, it feels, when people kill your stuff, you're like, oh, I've got no way to get that model back anymore.
Right, so should we see what happens in combat when 15 Boingrot Bounders charge, do mortal wounds on the charge, have 56 attacks, and then they just have a bunch of guys strike back?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think like a large number of them are going to die, and then the rest are going to run away to Battleshock.
Oh, however, in the combat at the bottom, the Mangler Squig has activated and has killed all of the Auric Hearthguard. Who would do?
Well, that's good. Unfortunately, doesn't take the objective because there is still one guy left on it, which sucks.
There is.
Mangler Squigs are great. I wonder, when you're talking about writing Gitz lists, whether you should just be like, start with 4 Mangler Squigs, because they are like super efficient and very scary and good.
Yeah, I mean, you could just replace the Boingrot Bounder element of the list for the Mangler part. The problem is with the Manglers is they suffer massively to chip damage, so they can get a lot worse very quickly. Yeah. And there isn't access to a lot of healing inside the Gloomspite Gitz book. But again, I don't think it's a terrible place to put it. And no one wants the Doppelganger Cloaked Loon Boss or Mangler Squig with the Mangler Squig at the same time to hit them. That's just pretty offensive, really.
You would be trying to alpha strike people, wouldn't you? You'd be going for that big alpha. Although, again, you start seeing some more Free Cities armies, which has got a bunch of different builds. Some of them are going to be like major negatives to hit and wound. Are you going to want to play a load of Gitz charging into debuffs bigger than Gloomspite armies put out? There's a lot of new things to consider. For
Data list. Just want to say thank you very much for subscribing. Appreciate that loads. Appreciate everyone who has today. It means the world to us. And how many Boingrots died? Nathan, sorry. 7.
So remember, these units are the same points cost.
7 Boingrot Bounders died to 6 Hearthguard Berserkers.
Yeah.
There are situations, though, and units where the Boingrots do better, or are better than... I'm trying to think if that's true.
Is it when you need your unit to die? is that the situation?
No, I'm
when you need to be above 4 foot tall to ride on the roller coaster.
Yeah. The Fyreslayers book is an issue, I think.
Is, yeah.
Because it's not a fun experience, I don't think.
There's a lot of books, I think, that at high levels of play, like high level players can see the paths through and round certain armies. Like a lot of high level players aren't as bothered about Slanesh. See the way around Fyreslayers, etc. But as soon as you go under the absolute top level of play, where most people play, these armies are just like unfun, unbeatable. And we have this problem in the shop all the time, and I've said this before when we talked about it on the podcast. It's not about just tournament players. When you got 2 guys who walk into a store and they pick up armies because they like the look, and one guy picks up Fyreslayers and the other guy picks up Slaves to Darkness, one of them people is not going to stay in the hobby. That's the bit you've got to work around, and that's the thing that is not good.
I agree. So the Boingrot Bounders have rolled a 6 for their Battle Shock, so they've mainly run away, all of them but one. And look at that, 15 guys charged, and they lost.
15 guys.
There's the handshake.
Yeah.
There's
I imagine Tom's got his hands on his hips right now.
Yeah, Tom is unimpressed by that game of Warhammer. I'm just a dick. I'm going to ban this. Oh, they bit. So we just heard from the players. They said it's not happy. Tom
said, forget those dwarves.
Yeah, so he's gone to buy him a drink. Colin's gone to buy him a drink as a true dwarf. What do you think of that game?
I think from the minute that mistake was made, it was obviously going to be a hard game. And I think even without that mistake, seeing those Boingrots charge in there and what they didn't do, even if Tom had have just charged his Boingrots turn 1 into those 15, they probably wouldn't have had that much of an effect anyway. Like, he probably shouldn't have been going in regardless.
Agreed.
He should have been playing the run around the board, dance around, try to hold objectives, jump over Colin's army to grab stuff behind him when he could. But it's a very different game of Age of Sigmar.
It's very easy to say, and I agree with you, that's what he should have tried to do, but that block that can run, charge, and it just takes up so much board space eventually, and you don't need all 30 to wipe a unit.
You just need 5.
They're just so outputty. And then, as you saw there, that 15 took a charge, that 15 Fyreslayers took a charge, and then they won that combat. Yeah. So he would have had to commit, that block of 30 would have had to commit everything, and the first time they activated, he would have lost everything. Yeah. So even doing that, the Luke Morton style of waves of units in just wouldn't have done the work because he just lost the board space and lost the control. Yeah. Really interesting, and it does show a disparity between those two army builds.
Yeah, certainly. I think... if Tom had played that matchup a lot more and knew about the ways around it, then maybe he could have done more, but it always would have been a hard game regardless, just like you say, disparity in the books.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for helping commentate again. You were amazing. And thank you to our table boss, Mr. Nathan Prescott, and to both of the players. I want to say a big thank you to you guys for watching today, Saturday, so we're done for the day. Don't forget to join us tomorrow for games 4 and 5 of the Justice Series GT in autumn. It's been a wicked event. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. You guys have been great. I want to say a massive shout out and thank you. And please join us tomorrow. See you soon.